If you are aware of the idea that there are other people could be trained how to do the things that you're doing, then why haven't you done that? If you ask the average leader, the average small business owner, the average personal brand, the average executive, and you said, are there things that you do like on a regular basis that you could probably train somebody else to do for you? What do you think most of us would say? Do you think we would say, no, 100% of what I do could only be done by me? Or do you think most of us would probably say, well, yeah, of course there are things. Of course there are things that I am doing that other people could do. Most of us would have enough self-awareness to say, yeah, of course. Like, of course there are some things that I do that other people could be trained how to do. And then if you ask this question and you said, okay, so if you are aware of the idea that there are other people could be trained how to do the things that you're doing, then why haven't you done that? And most of us would say one of two things. We would typically say something like this: well, it's just faster and better if I do it myself. In other words, it's just easier for me to do it. Nobody can do it quite like I can. And this, I will just foreshadow for you, becomes one of the most pervasive, striking, and destructive limiting beliefs of all leaders. It's the thing that holds not only themselves back, but it holds other people back that are around them. And it not only holds other people back around that, it holds their entire mission back, because they've attached the entire mission to themselves and they believe that they're the only person who can advance this mission forward. And it is a limiting belief. It took me a long time to learn this. I struggled with this, like all the things that we're talking about. And I want to introduce to you something called the 30X rule. The idea with the 30X rule is to spend 30 times the amount of time it takes you to do a task once, training someone to do it for you. For example, let's say that you have a task that takes you 5 minutes a day to do the task. The 30X rule suggests that you should consider spending 150 minutes training someone to do that task instead of 5 minutes doing it yourself. And this is honestly where we lose a lot of people, because they look at it and they go, Rory, that is the dumbest thing I have ever heard. That makes no sense. Why in the world would I spend 150 minutes, which is 2.5 hours? Why would I spend 2.5 hours training somebody to do a task that I could just do myself in 5 minutes? That doesn't make sense. And you know what? You're right. It never makes sense to trade 2.5 hours for 5 minutes unless you make the significance calculation. The significance calculation is about looking through a longer term lens. So what we're going to do is an actual empirical analysis of the significance calculation as it pertains to this exact example, and we'll see what we find. The trick is that if you apply the significance calculation here over the course of just 1 year, what you realize is that if you spend 5 minutes a day on a task, and there's approximately 250 working days in a year, then over the course of 1 year, you're actually going to spend 1,250 minutes doing that task over just 1 year. Isn't that interesting? In one moment, this looks completely different, because it never makes sense to trade 150 minutes for 5, but it definitely makes sense to trade 150 minutes if you're going to get 1,250 minutes back. Notice how the answer to whether or not you should delegate this is just as obvious as what it was before, but it was the complete opposite of how it originally looked. The task hasn't changed. The people haven't changed. The only thing that has changed is the leader's thinking. And that is why we say the next level of results always requires the next level of thinking.